I would like to request Professor Maya to give a bouquet to the guest of honor, Mr. Ujjwal Jadhav. I'll give a brief introduction about Mr. Ujjwal Jadhav. He's a trader with technical skills, gunning to become among the top 3 in Western India. He's CEO from Healthcare. He is Director Exports of Lycard Export Limited, engaged in pharmaceutical and traded exports. He is the Director of Ebers Pharmaceuticals Limited, is Managing Director of Civil Technology Private Limited, and is President of Geeky Exim India Limited, joined as an export executive and was a president in 4 years. And yesterday, sir gave a pep talk, a powerful speaker today you will get to see him. So now I would like to request all the participants to please come and have your seats on the stage.
So while the participants are coming up here on stage, I'd like to tell you that the introduction given by Gokul is completely false. You must be wondering how I am president of so-and-so company, CEO of so-and-so company, director in 4 companies. Well, he gave you my entire career graph, actually. Yes, I am the chief executive in a trading company, which is already about the best traders in Western India for biotechnology. And I run a recruitment company where I am the managing director. That company, I'm involved in various other activities. I started a magazine about 17 years ago. We had just about 5,000 circulation. Now it's about 1.5 million copies every year. So this is it. Actually, when I came here, it was not on a very happy note. While I was walking out here, I asked a very attractive young lady for directions. And she said, take the left and then the right, uncle. That uncle, yeah, it really hurt. It is better you would have had Vijender Singh out there and give me a punch on my face. That would have been so much better. And your organizers, Gokul, had a very tough time getting me out here. I'm from city of Bombay and I stay at Juhu. My neighbor is Shabana Azmi, Manoj Kumar, Firaj Kapoor, Meena Kumari and me were sharing the same extension line. Amitabh Bachchan is about 8 houses away. They all wanted to stay around me. And Gokul, of course, had a tough time because he wanted a very smart person with good SQ, IQ, star power. So here I am amidst you, trying to judge you on this topic. Just do it. I'll give you some tips. Okay. So let's take tip number 4. Your speeches, they better be humorous. If they are not icebreakers, at least they should break my ribs. Point number 7. Your speeches should not be read out. And body language is very important in your speeches. The word of kinesics. But remember, this is not a dance competition. And you can do the right gestures and facial expressions. I'll pardon you for it because none of you can afford Botox treatments. And point number 8 is that you should be ready to be booed by this small crowd that we still have here. Okay? Because if you laugh or you cry, then I'll deduct 2 marks out of you. But if you cross your knuckles and show it to the crowd, I'll add those 2 back. Of course, there will be many people who will have their cell phones ringing, especially those who own expensive HTC and iPhones. They will want that my cell phone has rung. And I'm sure nobody will be having a Samsung out here because Samsung is designed for humans, right? So, if you follow the rules that I have been telling you, be sure that you will lose the competition. But if you don't, and if you bore me for more than 5 to 7 minutes, you have to let me know whether I should shoot you from front or from back. Okay? And to all of you, I mean this, that if you need any help, any advice, and I'm serious about this, I'm not available to you. Sorry about this in advance. My best of luck to all of the team members. Please, have fun. On both sides, when all the speakers are through. When you come up, are they going to be speaking, are they going to be speaking using the lectern or mics? But I believe you should give them the lecterns. You could use the lectern, that would be better. Kindly introduce yourselves, your name, and whether you're speaking. I guess one side will speak for the motion and the other will speak against. So do let us know your names because we don't have them on these sheets out here. We've allotted, as I told you, about 5 to 7 minutes before my revolver goes off. Okay? So I think, do you want to toss up? Who wants to speak first? Which team? Which is the pro and which is the con? You are for the motion. You are against the motion. Sir, should against the motion speak first or for the motion? So for the motion, the leader, please come up and introduce yourselves. I request all of you who are here to please encourage these people whenever they've completed their talk, etc. We should give them a round of applause.
Just I would like all of you to know there are 4 judges today. We have Mr. Ujjwal Jaju, and we have Professor Maya, and we have Professor M.S. Shivakumar sir, and also Professor Balaji sir is going to join us in a few minutes. So these 4 guests are going to evaluate you, right? So we can start off. Start off with your name.
Good afternoon everyone, I'm Swati and I will be speaking for the motion. The topic for today is teenage thrills. So basically what is this? When I'm speaking for it, I'll be speaking for the just do it notion of it. So let's basically start with the definition of thrill. What thrill means? When we set those definitions clear, then again we'll be able to move forward and get things right. I'll be able to set a right perspective. So thrill is something which tantalizes you to perform an act. It should be something which teases you and something which pushes you forward to perform the task. So that is where we start with the definition of thrill. So let's make that clear. And after that, when we move on to the teenage thrills, we mean something like the thrills which most of the teenagers, that is the people between the age of 13 to 19, have, and how do they act upon it. Let's make one more thing also here a little bit clear when we say that teenage thrills. It is not just necessary that people who are in their teenage itself act on their instincts and perform their desires or do whatever. Many of the times what happens is like when we go into our adulthood, we realize that we haven't cherished our dreams or we haven't acted upon what we wanted to do. And that is also when you act upon your thrills. So that is also a case which can be considered. So coming to the just do it, here we think people or individuals as rational people who are very ambitious and who have got many desires, and would like to fulfill their goals. So when we think people as rational, it means that when you want to do something, you take a calculated risk and see what the pros and cons of it are, and then do it because you just don't want to miss the opportunity. Suppose I take an example, something like you have got, most of us here in our BTech are like, most of you must be in your BTech here. And then you would be, when you have got an opportunity for your placement or something. It's like, you know, there are 3-4 companies, but this opportunity is a very good opportunity where you have got a lot of risk involved, but then the learning is more. So this is something that thing might challenge you, might thrill you. So it is, most of the time people, they go for it and they take the opportunity. So such kind of thrills are called as rational thrills where people act upon it. And sometimes what happens is like we might contemplate a lot, think a lot about something and finally miss the opportunity. So that also happens. So one thing is like, it is always important to act upon what you think is right and then go for it, put your 100% in it and give your best. So that's one thing which I would like to state. And after that, it is just that we as individuals have got so many ideas which we feel to implement and which are on the, which we feel we have to implement. But then always there is one thing which is nagging at the behind of our mind, that will we be able to perform? Will we be able to do it? Will we be able to rise up to the challenge? So teenagers are people where, you know, the hormones which propel you to perform such acts are really very fast. So it's a good thing that you act on your desires and then take them forward and try to cherish your dreams. So what I would like to say is like, friends, we all have to act upon our thrills. We have to be very rational while thinking what we are doing. We have to be able to categorize and differentiate between them. And at the end of the day, it is very important that we understand what we are doing and move in the right direction. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ayush Bhargava, and I am speaking against the notion. Ayush Bhargava. I should begin with a true story. When in college, my dad was a smoker, and he didn't hesitate to puff even twice a day. But one day, my mom told him that 30 years from now, if you are suffering from any disease that is a consequence of smoking, don't even expect a glass of water from me. I shall leave you suffering, crying in pain. She even added that if you are suffering from any disease that is natural, I will serve you till death. And I think that's the last time I ever saw my father anywhere close to a cigar. And I truly respect both of them for this one incident that changed all our lives. A vision, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, a vision. Homo sapien is not just a physical definition of a human being. It encircles within itself moral sentiments, social responsibility, and communal living. No man is an island, and even if he chooses to do so, he cannot survive without the support of the sea around. I agree, we have one life, one opportunity, and truly believe that zindagi na milegi dobara. But friends, ladies and gentlemen, the line differentiating joy, enjoyment, and habit is more of a blur than a geometry. Thrill momentarily defines life, but when an addiction, life is defined by it. Very often, our esteemed dailies, the Times of India, the Hindu, read, teenagers succumb to alcoholic driving. Drugs and weed replace bread and butter in hostel rooms. Is this the worth of a life? Is this deserving of those hands of service that have served you selflessly in upbringing you for 20 years, 25 years? Ladies and gentlemen, is it truly worth the pounds? Everything in life has its limits. Habits change into character. A smoker not just affects himself, he affects his surroundings. He kills the surroundings. Peer pressure can make you cool. Peer pressure can make you sound very interesting in the society. But are you sure peer pressure is always right? Are you sure it's worth the leap? Each of us in society plays either a son or a daughter, a parent, a friend, a neighbor, a citizen. Each breath we take carries with itself hopes, dreams, aspirations, desires, future expectations. Are you sure that you want to sacrifice all this by just one leap that you take without thinking? Dreams are today's answers, tomorrow's questions. Don't you, ladies and gentlemen, want to give yourself a permission to envision a you that you choose to be? Don't you want to live a life that you have dreamt of? Or you want to drown in something that you regret you did and you can't come out of it? No matter how much we enjoy, how much we celebrate life and say, kya pata kal ho na ho, how much we say that I'm going to live because I don't know if tomorrow exists, we still every night before sleeping set an alarm for tomorrow morning. A hope, a late vision. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to rest my case in the words of Robert Frost. He said, I have promises to keep. I have promises to keep and miles to go before we sleep. And I add, ladies and gentlemen, think before you leap. And I rest my case. Sir said I should be humorous, but I think I believe in a positive ending, and nothing can be more positive than a smile.
Thank you, Aish. The next one. Thank you. Again.
Good afternoon, respected judges, friends and colleagues. The topic for today's debate is teenage thrillers. Should we just take it up or give a thought before we leave? My name is Sagar Vare and I am speaking for the motion. Teenage thrillers does not mean smoking, drinking or drugs. I am not here to preach about them. Everybody knows that it's bad. I'll let my opponents give you a good monotone over that. I will start by recounting one of my own personal experiences. I and 3 of my friends had gone to order. We ordered our dinner and sat down. It was an open roof hotel, so the sky was clear and visible. In between a meal, it suddenly started to rain, and heavily that too. So most of the guests rushed in. We ourselves got up and were about to leave. One of my friends said, let's just wait, sit in the rain and eat. I bet nobody has done that before. I said, true, that's an awesome idea. The rest of us decided, okay, fine. We sat there, had our meal. To this day, I still remember, everybody over there was watching us and laughing. We ourselves didn't care. We had the best meal of our day. I still remember the taste of that water-soaked vegetable. I doubt anybody of you remembers the dinner you had about 5 days ago. Neither can I. But that day was special. What made it special? It was the thrill of it. Thrill need not be anything as complicated as riding a bike very fast. It can be so, but it need not be. It can be a thing as simple as helping somebody. Giving a lending hand, that might give you a thrill. It might be running across country. It need not be as what one sees. That it has to be something that you have to put your life on. That's not what thrill is. We need to differentiate between the two topics that we are talking over here. We are talking about teenage thrill and not just go and jump out of the window. You are afraid to die and you are afraid to live. What a way to exist. By Neil Donald Walsh. As so rightly pointed out by Mr. Walsh, we humans are very funny. Downright comic, I'd say. We are scared of everything. We are scared to take risks. We are scared of failure. I even know a friend who's scared because he's scared. If we are so scared, when are we going to enjoy? When are we going to have a life? Even my opponents agree that we have only one life. I doubt anybody of you will argue that. So, if we don't enjoy right now, in our youth, when are we going to enjoy? Well, you might say ages 80 to 85 are a very huge party life, but I don't think so. Okay. To be a human is to dream, to imagine, to have the guts to take those wings and fly. If you don't have those guts, you're nothing more than what science defines us. A set of molecules that have come together, that function together, and have the ability to replicate. But that's not all we are. We are much more, much more. We are the people who believe, who have this fire within themselves. So I would like to end my statement by saying, life is not measured by the breath that you take, but by the moments that take your breath away. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharat. Now, from against the motion.
Hello, my name is Dharitri. Whether to indulge in life, to go about, eat, drink, with an eat, drink and be merry attitude, or to look before one leaps, raises a very important question of whether we possess the experience and judgment to decide what is good for us and what is not good for us. We really need to ask ourselves a few important questions of why are we indulging? Are we really gaining the quota of fulfillment that we expected, or do we keep coming back to it because we are dependent on a continuous source of stimulation, the feeling that something is lacking inside? This is a very important question because the youth today, in spite of all the gadgets, cell phones, iPods, music, entertainment, still look utterly bored. They happen to look like a generation of terribly bored. So much so that even for a simple feeling that they exist, they need some sort of powerful stimuli. Okay, question number 2. What is it that exactly molded our perception of what is cool? Is it peer pressure? Are we going with the crowd? I mean, the opinion that something is cool and something is not cool, is it being shoved down our throat? Are we even astute enough to sense how the media influences what we think we want? Okay. And finally, last but not least, it is worth pondering that if one can eat, drink, and be merry always, then who is going to clean your shit after you have eaten? Life reminds us that we equip ourselves enough. We equip ourselves emotionally, we equip ourselves financially and informationally, so that we are capable of dealing with our own metaphorical faces as they pile up after we are done with all our adventures. So, what are the solutions for all these? I don't think curbing our freedom is a solution to this, because curbing freedom has never really been a solution. It has never really had a positive impact on people. So now when does one realize that they are having fun in a healthy way and they are crossing the line? When does one realize that they're losing themselves in obsessive pursuit of what they think will fulfill them? You know, the very obvious symptom of the latter is a type of built-in discontent. It is a sad thing. You know, we keep giving ourselves things and we feel that we are under the illusion that it leaves us with a dream that more will fulfill us. Oh no, the next attempt is going to fulfill me more, the next and the next. And maybe gambling is one such thing. It is, you know, really a question of self-discipline. Instant gratification is never going to lead us anywhere. Any success, be it in love, relationships, happiness, money, career, are most effectively built over a long period of time. As I say, over the long haul. You know, it is not as much about saving for the future, accumulation for the future, as much as it is about trying to be, commitment to a consistent way of living, consistent lifestyle that will make your life better, not just now, but also in the future. The more you invest in the future, the better it will be when you find yourselves there. So coming back, when patterns of indulgence become repetitive, addictive, and unfulfilling, it is time to take stock of the situation. It is time to question yourself. It is time to analyze that what we are doing, is it really what we need? Is it really what we want? Is it really fulfilling us from within? Or is it simply motivated by a need to fit in and belong? Thank you.
My name is Praveer and I am in the favor of motion. Teenage thriller, just do it or look before you do it. Everything in life is for enjoyment. When the opportunity knocks, just do it. Spontaneity in life has its merit. People are of many types. Spontaneous people, prudent people. You never know when the opportunity knocks for something big unless you have tried something risky. Spontaneous people take risks, and through these risks they become successful. The most successful people in history, businessmen, politicians, scientists, took risks. People who change, take risks. No business venture could have been successful if it was not undertaken. Sure, many businessmen fail, but people learn from their failures and proceed in life. Teenage is the stage of life which shapes up a person's character so that he may venture into adulthood. There are a lot of thrills present in such an age. I am sure there can't be a single teenager who is not thrilled by something. For some it is modern technology, gadgets, video games, driving sporty cars, dating, intoxication. Everyone has got something which they consider to be cool and are thrilled by it. Question arises when someone is thrilled by something which is risky, which is harmful for them, something which could be life-threatening if taken in excess. So the key thing here is excess. Majority of the people know their limits because nobody wants to harm themselves unless they have got some other problems. But that doesn't mean someone should not enjoy themselves in life. Excess of anything is harmful. Studying too much is harmful. It harms your social life. So basically, it is the person's fault who engages in something excess. That person is not trying to enjoy, but he is harming himself. I say enjoy yourself, take risk, thrill yourself, because teenage is pretty short and adulthood is pretty big. And that's when we have to be responsible in adulthood. I would like to finish by saying that maybe the cases when person took fatal risk just for the thrill and knowingly, maybe the root of the problem is something else, and we should focus on the root of the problem. I believe teenagers should engage in thrillers which are enjoyable and have outcome of happiness and contentment. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveer. Ashish, please come forward.
No one plans to fail, but fails to plan. These great immortal words have revived again and showed its significance in the contemporary world. A very good evening to one and all present here. Today, I, Ashish Yadav, first year MA, is standing before you to speak on the topic, be careful, look before you leap. As it has been rightly said, that three things once gone, never return back: time, tide, and youth period. Youth period is the most graceful, most thrilling, and the most amazing period of anyone's life. It's a period where your mind, body, and spirit all are brought to work together. It's also a period of tremendous willpower, determination, and alertness, which when brought together to coordinate, it can make impossible to possible. But are we really making use of it? It's often noticed that this period is wasted in all sort of unimportant activities. The youths, in order to prove themselves cool, end up in doing something which pushes their future into the darkness. All cool stuffs initially appear very attractive and to a very great extent might pull people toward itself. But all this happiness is short-lived and most of it is unsatisfactory. I'm sure most of us sitting here have heard about the famous Aesop fable of ant and the grasshopper, where the ants they work day in and day out to collect the resources for the coming winter season, whereas the grasshopper he makes fun of them, he enjoys to the fullest, he makes merry, and at the last when winter comes, it's ants who are sitting inside, they're enjoying the winter, whereas the grasshopper he begs all around the houses for food and shelter, and at the end he meets an unfortunate end. My friends, the story of grasshopper and ant is very much applicable even today in our own life. It shows that early planning, ability to foresee future while being in present is important aspect for anyone's life. It prepares and protects you from future miseries by making you alert and attentive to the coming problem. As Winston Churchill has rightly stated that, change your worries of future into planning for the future. If we turn the pages of history and look at the great personalities of the world, let it be Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, etc. One thing which we find common in all of them is that all of them had ability to look into the future while being in present. And that all had made a difference. They all had a goal and worked tirelessly towards it, and today they are where we see them. On contrary, a casual approach often leads to disaster. Life is not a bed of roses. It is full of hardships, sufferings, struggles, and whatnot, where one has to undergo n number of pain and miseries. In this modern world of cutthroat competition, one cannot move forward without any plan. A good plan is prerequisite for a successful execution. Will it not be correct to say that opportunity favors the prepared mind? A well chalked out strategy channelizes all our energy to it, because if we don't know what we are going to do, how can we reach there? Further, consider my two statements. I have done it and I could have done it. Both the sentences appear similar, but there is a sea of differences between them. One of the former points towards the success, the achievement, and the optimism, whereas the later one points towards failure, pessimism, and shows lapses in planning. The difference between two is enough to separate a successful person from a non-successful person. Generations after generations, people keep reminding us for planning, foresightedness, and ability to calculate for future actions. It's their years of rich experience, careful observation, deep thinking, and practical implementation which has made them to say these words. At last, I would like to conclude my speech by saying that look before you leave, so that later on you don't have to cut a sorry figure. Better be safe than sorry. Plan early, have vision to see the invisible, and you will touch the pinnacle of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Pavan.
Good afternoon. Very good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Pavan Durgat, third year undergraduate mechanical engineering department. I feel that to just do it will have better results than to look before you leave. As all of my friends supporting the against motion said, I would like to define thrill in a broader sense. In a broader sense, there are innumerable things that a teenager would want to do. Start from the sports like ice hockey, rugby, to adventurous things like mountaineering, skydiving, underwater diving. Obviously, to the societal traditionally less acceptable like drugs, car driving, smoking, etc., etc. Obviously, when the passion, the junoon becomes addiction, it is not wrong to say that it will create destruction. Having uncontrolled craze for some things sometimes creates harm. Also, there is no problem in being conservative, and it is better to be than to take risk and then follow the consequences. But come to the positive side. History is full of examples of people who were driven out of their craze for some things and the thrill, and they created wonders. Wilma Rudolph, Lance Armstrong, Vasco da Gama, and this one guy in Bihar, which was showcased in Satyameva Jayate, he broke a mountain single-handedly. These are the wonders of being non-conservative, of allowing yourself free to do anything. Now, let's consider this thing. Being conservative will obviously fetch you returns, but by taking risks, but by allowing yourself free, will fetch you exponential returns. Champions are the ones who forget all the risk and just seize the goal. And do you think India would have survived or the world would have grown to such a rate without these risk-taking people, without these crazy people? I can hear your heart says no, no, no. We require crazy people. Man's most pathetic weakness as well as the most powerful weapon is the belief. If you believe you can, you can. And if you believe you can't, you can't. As rightly said by the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, man's worst enemy is his fear. If he can conquer his fear, he can conquer even the impossible. For example, consider the case of adventurous sports as well as activities which teenager would involve himself in. If he tries more than his abilities, he will overcome his potential and will overcome his fear and will have less resistance while taking risk in his future life. Because what teenage life is what decides what an individual will do in his further life. Consider the case of a disaster which can happen anywhere, anytime. Amongst the two, suppose two people are there, one being conservative and one has the guts to take risks and follow. Who will survive if there are equal opportunities? Obviously, the one who has taken risks, the one who has the guts to do it. Coming to what activities there are less prominent in societies, like less acceptable in societies, like rash car driving. Consider this scenario. A person who can drive a bike or a Lamborghini at 350 kmph. Can't he drive an aircraft at 1000 kmph and save the nation during military operations or during any disaster operations? Obviously, he will be the first one because he has taken risk in his life and will be no longer feared to death. Also, in order to achieve greatness, an individual must challenge the traditional way of life and as well as also the conventional wisdom of the day. Consider this case in a mine. When you go hunting for gold, you know that your first ounce of gold will not come before 1,000 ounces of dirt, sand and mud. But when you go hunting for gold, you just go hunting for gold. You don't see about sand, mud and dirt. So that's what I feel. You have the passion, you have the courage, just do it. Because this will create wonders for the nation, for the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. So last one, from against motion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to add somewhat to what Ayush said. Think before you act.
Please tell your name.
Yeah, my name is Vinay Kumar. He said, think before you act. Like, what we need to think about? We need to think about the people who are living with you, for you. Think about the obstacles that you need to face before you act. Think about how to clear them. And not about the post-action elements like success and all. And thinking would help us to achieve our long-term goals. It's not that thinking is time-waste or something like that. And it avoids taking hasty decisions. And we need to be careful about it. And it is not like we need to avoid the hurdles. Avoidance of hurdles is not always possible. we need to face them. In order to achieve success, we need to face hurdles. That is must. But to overcome them, we need to make a good plan. That is important. Just blindly jumping in to to achieve success is not right. Passion should be accompanied with care. That's what we see. And even a tiger steps back for a while before it jumps on to catch the prey. Remember that. To enter a great future, we just need to save our present. That is most important for us in teenage. And not that just do it policy is perfectly wrong. We are saying just do it for our goodness. That is important. And instincts to play a major role in building up our character. So it is what is mostly considered. We say enjoyment should be obtained with atmosphere. We are not against enjoyment. Simply that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gandhi. Thank you, everyone. Now you can decide amongst yourself as one of you as a leader, and we can wrap the whole points up and give a conclusive talk. We have 2 minutes each. Motion, for the motion, and against the motion. You can take 1 minute. So 5 minutes for discussion. Okay, 5 minutes for discussion.
Nothing. Okay. We can't do it. No, I can't check the captures of the audience today because the chairs will become people are coming in with this. No, people are not coming. No, the chairs. You don't take the audience. You take it. You got it. 2 days you cover both of us. Yes, I know. 2 days work is boring. Your voice is recorded here, right? No. Not much because it captured from the front side and from address Vista side. Very nice. And then this is concept. This one, you won't be coming. This is the problem. If anyone cross one side to another, then
what we have observed is that our opponents have taken the stand that mostly thinking is not involved when you are thrilled. But what we would like to say is that just do it doesn't mean that when someone asks you to go and jump in a well, you just jump like that. You think you are a rational entity and you do what it has to be done. So this is one thing which we would like to portray. Just do it doesn't mean doing without thinking. It means putting some amount of insights into it and giving your best to it. It means giving your passion to it. Just do it means that. And there are a few points which we would like to discuss. In one example, it has been quoted by our opponents that Robert Frost had told that it is important to keep promises to others. But we would like to say that it is important to keep promises to yourself. When are you going to keep promise to yourself? When you can do that, it's only then that you can fulfill others' promise. So then, only if you do it at the moment, you would be able to keep your promises. And it has also been stated that many of the times we fail to plan. But even after elaborate planning, we fail to achieve. So it's important that you implement it and do what you want to do rather than just keep on planning again and again without any fruitful results. We have also discussed about the ant and grasshopper example. Yeah, the ants are conservative and a grasshopper is something which looks at it in a different manner and takes it forward. But at the end of the day, we are humans. We are neither ants nor grasshoppers. So our stance is completely different. That wouldn't come here. That is one thing. We have also been told that it's like many great leaders. It has been discussed about father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. It was told that he had planned everything. But one incident had motivated Mahatma Gandhi to be what he is. That was when he was thrown out of the train. He had on the spur of the moment decided that this is what I am going to do and this is how I will be. So that is the moment when he thought that I'll just do it. So such kind of movements are pretty necessary in everyone's life and existence. So we would like to iterate that fact. And one more thing, like what Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam had told. He had said that it is important to work in a flow. When you are in a flow, you will have to go with the flow. It's only then that results are achieved or anything substantial will be done. So it might be difficult, it is actually not very difficult to take a decision. The most important fact lies in taking the same decision again and again. And when you are thrilled to do something, you will definitely take the same decision again and again and again. So thrill is important there also. So friends, what we are trying to say here is that thrill doesn't mean just raw instinct. It means basis, insight and acting upon your interests and desires. So one thing which I would like to say. We have always been told that think about your future, plan ahead and keep doing what is good for your future. If you put one leg in your future and one leg in your past, when is it that you think about your present? Present is as important and equally important. So being in the present and using your presence of mind is the most important thing. In a country like India, right now we need leaders who have got good presence of mind, who are ready to do things and who are just ready to go for it. And sometimes what happens is that there are always many reasons not to do something. But sometimes it is just good to do something. You have got no reasons to it and it doesn't make any sense. Few years later you might think that, oh, was it me? Have I actually done it? But these are the moments and memories which are with you and which will propagate and instigate you to take few more actions in your future. So friends, we would like to conclude by saying that follow your heart, give your 100%, achieve your dreams, just go for it and just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Bhargav.
Hello. I think this debate was quite one-sided and her summary just proved her point. I think she thought a lot before she left on stage. Anyway, I would like to talk about each of our opponents. One of them said, you're afraid to die and hence you're afraid to live. That's because you are afraid to take a risk. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not talking about not taking a risk, but there's a difference between a risk and a calculated risk. I'm not saying that adventure sports like bungee jumping should be restricted because they are causing thrill. I'm just saying that before you indulge in bungee jumping, you must analyze the measures, the safety measures, the precautions, and then take a decision. And that's when you're allowed to take such a thrill. And there were a lot of quotes like break a mountain, seize the goal, and even go hunting for a goal in mines. I think that is highly random because you can't do any of this before thinking. You can't break a mountain by just getting up and saying, oh, I just want to do it and break a mountain. The whole point of you trying to break a mountain is to think about how you're going to break a mountain, or the whole point of you finding gold in a mine is you think that, okay, there is a possibility that this place has a chance of having gold. You just don't start digging here and say, oh, I'll find gold because I just wanted to find gold here. And a lot of arguments saying that there are thrills which are not wrong. I completely agree that teenage thrills are not always wrong. I completely agree that some of them said that we'll talk about smoking, drinking as a monotone, but these are thrills which are wrong in its essence. But there are thrills which are right. For example, technology, gadgets. People might get thrilled by even helping the poor, as one of our opponents said. But the ability to differentiate between which thrill is wrong and which is right is where you need to think. And in that case is where you think before you leave and then choose the thrill and make sure whether it is right or wrong. We're not telling you that don't choose a particular thrill, that itself is fundamentally wrong. We're telling you that think whether the thrill itself is right or wrong is what our analysis is. Another person said that we must enjoy life without thinking of another tomorrow, but I think we live in a society and we have a social responsibility towards each other, towards a community as a whole, and any of our actions not just affects us, it affects the surroundings as well. And that's where we need to think whether we are causing any damage to the environment or any damage to the society by our actions. And that's where, again, I keep repeating the word think, because at every point of time, I don't think there is anything in life where you can just do it without thinking. And that's where I rest my case.
Thank you, Dr. Everyone, it was thrilling. It's like another teenage thriller to hear from all of you. It is. I hope all of you enjoyed very much. Is it not? Yeah. Please give a big round of applause to all the students who participated. Thank you so much. Now, I guess you are all thinking about who will be winning. Again, another thrill. So that would be evaluated after Ujjwal Jadhav sir when he gives after his concluding talk. So all of you please take seats here.
At least the front portions are crowded enough. And I assure you that I just bark, I don't bite. So please come ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pretty much excited and challenged to be here. My audience has always been corporates who are more than 30 years of age, or parents, because I conduct some parenting seminars as well, who are harried and in great problem because of the likes of... And I'm challenged because the organizers have given me just about 30 or 40 minutes to speak. Usually my seminars are about 8 hours spread over 2 days. So it is going to be a big challenge to me. And the organizers have just told me that instead of 30 minutes, you can speak for 40 minutes. They want to take some sort of a revenge on you people, so that I can bore the hell out of you in the last 10 minutes. Now since I'm prepared only for 30 minutes, I think if it's cool out here, we'll keep a 10 minutes silence. Is that okay? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the real reason that I'm here, apart from being a bit crazy, is that, not that I've come here to motivate you, or because you already are a motivated lot. You wouldn't have been here if you were not motivated. I am the person who's come to ask you why. Treat me as the why guy. Why did you get out of bed today? Why did you walk down here? Why are you doing what are you doing? Not 10 years ago what you were doing. 10 years ago, we don't want to create a pattern. We want to know why. Why today? Why am I doing what I am? Most of us, especially you people, will be retiring by around 2050. Am I right? Given that you will have 60 years to work until, and technology will definitely cut those 60 years also shorter. They will make it to 55 years probably by the time you come for retirements. And this institute is the Indian Institute of Technology. We are talking of 2050, that's when you'll retire. But technology is changing us so fast that we don't know what it's going to be like 5 years from now. The way technology is making us to interact, to intersect, is really mind-boggling. How many of you have heard about the Norden bomb site? Any one of you? Okay, I didn't expect that anyone would know. Norden was a German-Swiss engineer way back during the World War days. And he developed a system whereby an aircraft that was flying at around 5,000 to 7,000 feet above the ground could deliver the bomb to a specific site. Now he developed that system, and the Americans, they hired him, and they spent a lot of money on this. And he had this complex physics and mechanical and everything done up very clearly because it was all projectile motion, etc. The problem was that after spending millions of dollars on this Norden bomb sight and installing it on the aircrafts that were going to bomb the various German industrial places and the airports, etc., it had various gyroscopes and ball bearings, etc. Some contraption was there inside, and the contraption was supposed to explode if the plane flew down into enemy territory. Now, none of these planes, even after having this Norden bomb sight installed on them, could attack the target. And the Americans later on found out that the Germans already knew about the Norden bomb sight. After spending millions and millions on technology, finally you come to know that when you want to bomb and drop a nuclear bomb in Japan, it actually went 8 kilometers away from the place despite having that Norden bomb sight installed on that aircraft. And the person who made it, Norden, was a deeply spiritual Christian. He did not actually want to cause harm to people. Cut to the modern day technology. I was just reading a couple of weeks ago that a person has already made a machine gun with a 3D printer. I'm sure you are aware of 3D printers. So this is going to really change our lives, 3D printers. You know, if I want, I can print out anything. I'll just print out a gun. And there you are. The other thing that is going to seriously impact us in terms of technology is GPS. About 12 years ago, GPS was just good enough to sort of tell you, 50 meters here or there. In the year 2000, Bill Clinton signed a certain paper which said that GPS could come down to about a meter or 2 meters. Did you read the Times of India this morning? There was on the second page GPS tracking devices for the elderly. Somebody is making those. But GPS technology is progressing so fast that they are probably going to come in onto millimeter distances. They can locate you and track you on millimeter distances. Sounds good? Yes? Imagine if I were to keep on tracking you, if I were to make, from my imagination, something called a GPS dot. Okay? Like the ladies have a bindi. So I make a GPS dot. It will be very good for a person like me who's growing old. I'll put it on my spectacles because I keep losing track of where my spectacles are inside my house. So I can use my GPS dot to track where my spectacles are. But I'll use the same dot to track where you are going. Sounds scary? May not sound very scary. Google is already tracking all of us. The Google robo out there is already tracking with their algorithms as to what you are searching. And they throw up, what you may have searched even about 10 days ago, they will think that probably you're coming for this as well. Very, very scary. That's the reason I hate algorithms. In fact, I hate logarithms, so what to talk of algorithms. Technology is really going to change the way we interact and intersect with each other. Question is, because you are in the IITs and I'm a management postgraduate student, I've learned how to make money. That's the thing we learn in management. You use technology and make money. Now, how many of you as technologists would love to make money? Say I loudly. None of you? How many of you would, let me put the question again, I'm amazed. How many of you would like to be millionaires? Oh wow, thanks a lot. Have you heard of Steve Jobs? Anyone out here have you heard of Steve Jobs? I expected no one would have heard of Steve Jobs out here. Have you heard of Pablo Escobar? You've heard of Pablo Escobar? Wow, I'm in good company then. I'm a pharmacist. drugs, etc. So Pablo Escobar, a Mexican lad, 12 years old, makes his first thievery and robbery at that young age and goes on in his life in somewhere around the 80s to export tons and tons of marijuana, of opium, and later on of heroin. And now his successors have taken to methamphetamines and what have you. Pablo Escobar was a billionaire. Want to have an idea of what kind of money he had during those days? When the police raided him, they found 1100 crore rupee notes in his drawing room. 1100 rupee, of course those were dollars. He didn't trade in rupees. I'm just converting those in rupees for your easy understanding. $206 million they found in his living room. Pablo Escobar used to buy rubber bands worth 1.5 lakh rupees every month simply to wrap around the notes that he got. Imagine the kind of money that he had. And with money came in huge amount of intoxication, huge amount of gambling, murder, cruelty, sex, unbridled sex. There was no regulation in life that he followed. Just no regulation. We'll take each of these regulations very briefly. Unbridled sex. I just read before I was coming here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, at the age of 65, is begging his wife to please return and stop the divorce proceedings because he had sex with his maid and had a son there. Very expensive affair to have sex with your maid, especially in the US. Half your property goes to the wife. And Arnie is a very rich man. He was a governor at a given point in time. And do I need to tell you, golf players, I won't name them because I was a fan of this person at a particular point in time. Golf players, the American president, I won't name him because I'm still a fan of this person. Up until an octogenarian politician in Uttar Pradesh, he also had to pay very dearly. He had a son at the age of 82. So you break regulations and there are very serious repercussions. Intoxication, of course, we've been talking since yesterday. Dr. Dalal talked about intoxicants, etc. I told you about my experience since I was a pharmacist. I was very close to drugs. Intoxicants can definitely land you into a territory that will make you dependent upon that substance. There's something called drug dependence, and the drug activity and the intake of drug has to increase more and more. Because I was coming and addressing the IITs, so I was very scared. So I took about 50 sleeping pills before I came here, just to calm myself. Sorry, I'm kidding, I just took 48, not 50. Drugs are something that you will need to increase the dosage by the day. If yesterday you had 1 milligram of dexamphetamine and walked around the campus like a horse, today you will have to have 2 milligrams, tomorrow 3 milligrams. And the same is the case for any drug, And you'll be dependent on this. I don't need to talk much about this. Yesterday it was spoken. And then comes gambling. The biggest gamblers and speculators are the American banks. How many of you have heard of junk bonds and toxic loans out of the housing bonds that the Americans created? of course, some of the IITs also help them with the technology of getting to know what are derivatives out of nowhere in the air. You get some derivatives and then you sell that to somebody else. And what have they got us into? Into this deep, repetitive cycle of recession and an upcycle and a deeper recession and a higher up and a higher and a deeper recession and a higher up. Why? The Americans simply need to print dollars, boss. They don't need gold to back it up. Because America believes in what? How many of you have read the dollar note very closely? There's something very nice written out there. In God we trust. If you pick up a dollar bill, you will read there, in God we trust. What is the American God? Google, oil and defense. That's their God. It used to be gold, oil and defense. I think since Google is coming up so heavily, I changed that to Google now. So speculation and gambling can lead you to lose everything that you have. There are history records people like Mike Milken. He sold junk bonds. He went 30 years jail after that. If you read some of the economics people, you will know Mike Milken was a junk bond trader. He used to sell junk bonds so that people could earn more. There was Nick Leeson. He traded in copper. And his Japanese employer, I believe it was Sumitomo, he gave them a loss of around $1.5 billion around 10 years ago, which was a lot of money at that time. Our own, if you have heard of Harshad Mehta, a big time speculator. And this is because of greed. Somebody from the teams did mention about gambling, where you simply think you will get it back, you will get it back. Way back in 1992, I'm a stock market investor myself, an avid investor. I made some money on the stocks. But in 1992, I was just about starting up, and a friend of mine called me from Calcutta. Those were the days when you could get some IPO shares allotted to you, by some other means. So he told me, you send me this much money and I'll get you the IPO of this particular company allotted. And I sent the money, thinking I would double it. Actually, I made it into a big zero because that person turned out to be a fraud. Now, I knew him through some uncle of mine, and the uncle had advised me something very, very nice, which I have carried in my heart since those days. He said, Ujjwal, if you are getting a real lot for doing just this much, beware, there is something wrong out there. That was a lesson I learned, that gambling doesn't pay, speculation doesn't pay. We come to the last point, cruelty. Pablo Escobar would kill people at the drop of a hat. He wouldn't think twice. And in this day and age, somehow we are also tending towards physical, mental cruelty. A very current example is that of the movie that has been made by a certain American filmmaker. It's a very cruel joke upon a certain sect. They have actually insulted the prophet and the messiah of that sect. It's a very cruel joke, and it has been compounded by technology. So cruelty, whether it is in my dealings with you, whether it is dealings with any other person, physical, emotional, mental, it's an amazing no-no. It has to be a regulation for ourselves. So that was Pablo Escobar. He was Robin Hood for some people, but finally died a dog's death. He was shot in the left or the right ear, I don't remember which one. And his empire crumbled. His empire was taken up by some other competitor. They had so much money, they could build tunnels from Mexico to US and smuggle the cocaine with that. When that one tunnel was found out, they built 20 other tunnels. They had submarines, they had 13 Boeing aircrafts with them. That was the kind of money he made. And all got lost in just one bullet. We cut and come to the person who at birth, because of being born from an unwed mother, had to be given away in adoption. The parents could hardly afford his education. And 6 months into college, you all know, he went to calligraphy lessons. In his famous speech in 2005 in Stanford, he says, now I can connect all the dots. Have you heard of this speech, Connecting the Dots? It's very, very famous, given by Steve Jobs. You must go and see it on YouTube. We will come back again and discuss Steve Jobs in greater detail, why he was successful. Of course, the key reason he was successful was that he didn't make us to work for the computers, he made the computers to work for us. He was sensitive. He was sensitive to the needs of users. That is the reason that Steve Jobs was so successful. We'll dig deeper into that just in a while. 2 master lessons. One is the science of achievement. The science of achievement is easy because it is science. There are rules. You can make the codes, understand the codes, follow them, and there will be achievement. Do I need to talk to IITians about achievement? No. They've already achieved a certain thing and they'll probably achieve greater heights. But one of the speakers out here spoke about fulfillment. Now that is an art. There are no written rules out there. Fulfillment, there are no written rules. One of the most amazing statements that I have heard in one of my parenting classes, lectures that I give, this very successful person comes up to me and says, the best gift that I got from my parents was the gift of poverty. I repeat, the best gift that I got from my parents was the gift of poverty. And I was very amazed at this statement. I always thought, give this person the best computer, the best bike that is available, the best clothes that are available, the best hostels that are available, the best institutes that are available. But I hear so many complaints that many of them are going to the rehab rather than creative research and development institutions. They are getting more into problem areas. But the hungry are achieving much more, even though they have been through ultimate pain, spiritually, emotionally, physically, but they have overcome all of this. Biggest example, Oprah Winfrey. Her mother was a maid. And all that the mother wanted Oprah Winfrey to become was a good maid. And Oprah was physically abused, and she decided that I will not take this in. And Winfrey Oprah today is amongst the top 10 billionaires in the US, well known throughout the world. She conducts those talk shows which are very, very famous. So to be significant, we really do not need violence. But violence somehow has got ingrained into us. We need more of love instead of the hurt that goes into relationships and connections. One of the most cruel acts that we perform, I've done it, I've been part of it also, I'm equally blameful for that, is ragging. When we rag our juniors. I was also ragged, and somehow I got into the trap. I will rag. It's a very cruel act, really speaking. I hope the seniors are listening and the juniors are by my side. Cruelty is there all throughout history. I read about an Arab king that went to the UK to see what is the latest in execution technology. I hope you understand execution technology. Okay? So he went there and the Englishman was demonstrating the equipment. He said, this is it. As soon as the blade comes off, the man's head is chopped. And it's very quick, painless. So the Arab king, being an Arab king, said, I want a demo. The Englishman said, sorry sir, we don't have anybody to send to the gallows as of now. And that came the reply from this Arab king. Take my guard. Can you imagine the kind of cruelty that is there? This is the person who's protecting the king, who's taken shelter of the king, and he says, take my guard. Why? He just wants to see a demo of how the gallows work. History is of course replete with such cruel kings. Basically, where we have gotten on to is that we have become insensitive. Very insensitive. Our personal gains are more important. Close by, there used to live a king called Ravan. And he had a brother called Kumbhakaran, very, very famous brother. What was the one problem with Kumbhakaran? If he was woken up before his quota of 6 months sleep, Kumbhakaran would die, would surely die. It's like if I'm interrupted in this talk before my quota of time, I would surely feel hurt. But Ravana didn't bat an eyelid. Wake up the brother and he must go. That was the kind of cruelty. Insensitive means people are functions. Just as we use in our equations, Fn. So people are functions. Use them, drop them. So we've come to learn to love our gadgets and use our friends. Love your gadget and use your friend. Just do it. People are talked of as hands in factories. It's not people. They are hands. That's it. Their function is a hand. Abortion is called tissue termination. What more cruelty could you do? Famously, I have heard that religion without philosophy is a mere ritual. Our so-called going to the temple and doing this karate stroke is of no use because hardly we understand as to why we are doing this. There is no philosophy that we are trying to learn. Why am I doing this if at all? Why am I offering this stick that smokes? And philosophy without religion is complete mental speculation. Most famous verse, Aham Brahmasmi. Have you heard of this? Aham Brahmasmi. So you are Brahma, I am the creator, you are the creator, and both of us are going to fight whose creation it is. So Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. That's my speculation. Because I don't believe in religion. I don't believe who's Brahma, I don't care who's Brahma. I am Brahma. If you are Brahma, bloody hell, why are you suffering here in IIT Chennai? So all of this, as I said, religion without philosophy, ritual. I do it because my mother asked me to do it. Philosophy without religion, mental speculation. And since we were on the point of cruelty, I thought philosophy and cruelty is equal to terrorism. You have a great philosophy that you will go back. Just kill these people, you will go back. Misdirected philosophy and add to that some cruelty and you have the result, terrorism. And if you add religion to that, you bask in the security of that religion. That I will be secured because I am doing this for my religion. What use is such religion? For us, for anyone for that matter. The rich are spending huge. They create Naxalites. The leaders are being cruel. They are least bothered about what is happening to their subjects. But there is this law of karma. And the problem with this law of karma is that there is no facility for adding our interpretation or putting some assumptions to it. It's an extremely powerful law. As I was saying some time ago, that I also fell into this cruel trap of ragging my juniors. Many of us think biography. My biography is my destiny. My past is equal to future. One of the speakers out here mentioned about this. If you are always in the past and always in the future, when are you going to live your present? Of course, all of you here in this room would not subscribe past is equal to future. It is if you live in the past. And if you choose not to, it isn't. Simply because I say this many times in classes, simply because my father was a very strict person. He gave me a couple of raps, virtually weekly I would get something like that. But I decided that I would not touch my children. My father was a smoker. Someone mentioned a very poignant story about his father smoking. I'll tell you mine. I started smoking in the 2nd standard. I told this thing yesterday. I started smoking in the 2nd standard. I stole 4 cigarettes from my father, smoked them all at once. And I was stinking all over. And I got 4 raps. And I continued. I said 4 raps, I better continue this thing. It's thrilling. But then in 1976 in my 10th standard, somehow I left smoking. And 1977, my father also left smoking. So, point is, just because my past was like this, so I'll do this in the future. Please, let's get over this past equal to future and be cruel with people. How many of you think that you have achieved what you wanted to? Say yes. Okay, what are the reasons that you think? Give me a couple of them. Why have you not been able to achieve what you really wanted to? Any reasons, sir? Anything, any reason? Money? Could be one. Anything else? Did any one of you want to become a singer or a dancer? Yes? Nobody from the humanities, is it? I do believe there's one person from the humanities, right? Okay. So what's the reason given often? I didn't have time, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resources. But remember, resources and resourcefulness are 2 different things. If you have the will, the resources will come. If you have the will, the creative resources will come to you. So ladies and gentlemen, I will now start about today's topic. Is that okay for you? Because I'm an 8-hour speaker. Unfortunately, half an hour is required for introduction for me. A particular author. Why do you switch off this? No. You know, he's very intelligent. I've been reading a very interesting author called Simon Sinek. And he's written a book. You could all Google it off and see. And I'm going to talk about that as my concluding remarks. His website is called Start With Why. Start with W-H-Y. Okay, why. And he has given this very beautiful concept of 3 golden circles. Very simple, very beautiful concept. He's got this outermost circle, which he says is the what circle. And he's got this circle in between, which is the how circle. And the center circle, right in the center, is the why circle. And he very nicely puts it. Let all of us know about the outermost circle. The what circle is very clear to most of us. What am I doing today? What are you doing today? What are you going to probably do tomorrow? What was done yesterday? The what circle is very, very clear. What is my company producing? That is very clear. Now comes a slightly difficult part. The how circle. How am I doing? How am I studying? How am I giving exams? How am I trying to run my company? This gets a little bit unclear. And the last one is the why circle. It's the fuzziest part for most people. It's the why circle. Why am I here? Well, I have answered this question. I'm here to give back what I have learned over the years. But why are you here? Why are you here in IIT? Anyone? Why are you here in IIT? Hey, come on, I need some answers. Why are you here in IIT? Yes? Hey, you don't know why you are here in IIT? To be successful. Okay? Anyone else? You wanted to be here. All this successful, wanted to be here to gain knowledge. None of you want $1 million jobs, is it? So I'll let the recruiters know that this batch of IIT doesn't want $1 million jobs. I'm sure you won't be here also for the money that comes with it. But none of this is the why. None of this is the real why. This is what you will get by coming to IIT. This is the result. Money and importance is the result that you will get by coming to IIT. You still got to go to your hostel rooms and dig deeper why you are here in the IITs. Why you are doing what you are doing. Why do you get out of bed today? Surely you've read about the sales of the latest iPhone. Any figures on how much did it sell in the first 3 days? First 3 days, what was the sales of iPhone? How many pieces? 1 million? Jara boliye aage badhao. 2 million pieces, 20 lakh pieces sold in 3 days as if there was no tomorrow. People were queuing up outside as if there is never going to be an iPhone available probably after 7 days. And the deliveries are going to start. They haven't as yet started so much. I think probably all of you, at least you and me, will remember that this was the situation with Bajaj scooters in the 60s and the 70s. And with Fiat cars. If you wanted a Bajaj scooter 10 years from now, then you book now. He's worked many Bajaj scooters like that. But in this day and age, what's the real difference? iPhone, Samsung, HTC, Dell, HP, they all have touch phones, boss. They all have the glass on top there. They all have good software there. But the iPhone books 2 million pieces in 3 days. When the first iPhone was made, it was made from a plastic touch screen, and Steve Jobs put it in his pocket, and he had his car keys also in the same pocket, and the car keys rubbed against that, and he said, sorry, I don't want a plastic, I want glass. And overnight they had to search for a company who would make that kind of a toughened glass with such sensitivity, and they got Corning into the whole game. Of course, that's another story of development. But the real question that we are trying to answer here is that HP, Dell, in fact HP was amongst the first 2-3 who came out with these handhelds. I remember having purchased a handheld in year 2000. There were two options. You would go for a O2 PDA, or you would go for, there was another famous one at that time which has disappeared by now. And there was this HP handhelds, there were Symbians of course at that time. So HP was the first one to make a handheld, amongst the first few people. But today they are not selling any of this. So Apple could come and make a pitch to you. I have a phone that is a touch screen, has got great software, is made of aluminium body, has got glass on top. You could put a diamond or two, or you could gold plate it. Like to buy one? I say, yeah, okay. What's the big deal? Now let's go to the example that Simon Sinek tells us of starting from the why. What I told you was about the what. I have a product, clear water, good bottle, good price, like to buy. Not very inspiring. But Steve Jobs went the other way around. He said, Apple believes in challenging the status quo every time, and you as a user should have an exhilarating experience. That is our why. We believe in challenging the status quo every time. And the what and the how is, we work on the hardware, we work on the software. And the what is, I have an iPhone, like to buy one? Sounds very different, because here my user exhilaration is involved. It's not about selling a product, it's about you. I have run out of time, I know that. Do you want me to continue, or you would like to give me a standing ovation? Since you're not giving me a standing ovation, I'll continue and trouble you for some more minutes. There's a very famous example within our own country. I'm sure some of you may have seen these ads. A full-page ad by Tata Steel. And there is this accountant, or there is Bhaichok Bhutia, she climbed the Everest, or there is some other football player in that full ad. And the whole ad talks about this person, just this person. And right below there is a small line, we also make steel. Do you get the reason why Tata Steel in Jamshedpur has never had a labor problem? Because for them steel was the what. That is the what. Why are we into it? We are into it for the people. If any one of you has got a chance to go to Jamshedpur, you will see that city is beautiful. It is that city is managed by the Tatas. They don't have a separate governmental municipality or something of that sort. The city is managed by the Tatas. So their why is people. God bless the Tatas. Another example that Simon Sinek talks of is of Martin Luther King. We all know there was no internet or Facebook at that time that you could assemble people. But 250,000 people came to attend Martin Luther King's speech. Similarly, Gandhiji out here, he inspired people because he had the why correct. He had a long-term vision of the state of his people, of his surroundings, of his environment, of his world. How many of you have heard of the Wright brothers? Anyone? Acha, yeah, sorry, it's the IIT that I'm talking to. How many of you have heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? Even I have tough times pronouncing this name, okay? Samuel Pierpont Langley. Here's the story. Samuel Pierpont Langley was a very, very influential professor. He had a chair in Stanford. He had a chair in Harvard and some association with Smithsonian. He knew all the scientists that were to be known, and he had conducted many experiments about manned flight. This is the year 1898 that I'm talking about. Samuel Pierpont Langley and the American government, especially the defense forces, were thrilled. If we could have a manned flight, that would be great. So they gave Samuel Pierpont Langley $50,000 plus $20,000. A lot of money at that time. So he had the money, he had the connections, and the New York Times, the media would follow him everywhere. So he had all the resources that were needed. We just spoke about this issue some time ago, having all the resources that you need. Just about 100 miles away in Denver, Ohio State, I believe. Denver is in Ohio, I'm not so sure. Yeah, Dayton, Ohio. There were these two brothers. They didn't have any education, formal education for that matter. They were Orville and Wilbur Wright. They ran a cycle shop, but they believed that if we could take this manned flight, it will change the whole world. And every time they would fly, they would have failure. 5 times they would fly and they would have 5 times failure. They had to sell their cycle shop, they had to sell their cycles, etc. But in 1902, December, they ran the first manned flight. 1902 or 1903? 1903, December, they put the first manned flight and they were very successful. The New York Times didn't follow them. They didn't have the money, they didn't have the connections, they didn't have the education. But they did it because they believed that the why had a very large purpose. The entire team believed in their why. And what happened to Samuel Pierpont Langley? He shut shop. He completely shut his shop. Because he was after the millions that would come if he had got the manned flight first. The Wright brothers had a patent to it. Pierpont did try to improve on it, but couldn't. And he left. He could have taken a positive attitude and said, hey, Mr. Wright brothers, maybe we join hands and we can improve on this. But he just quit. Because his was the what of it. I want the what out of all this. I want the millions, I want the New York Times to follow me, and I want to be in Harvard or Smithsonian. That was the what. So, there are many such entrepreneurs in India also. Tulsi Tanti, the chairman of Riva Cars, the person who makes the electric cars, Mr. Maini. Ever since he was in college, he wanted to make an electric car, and he's pursuing his passion even now because he believes in a cleaner tomorrow. So many entrepreneurs. The couple, Mr. R. Sriram, I believe, and his wife who launched crossword stores. They are so famous. The person who made Dosa Plaza across India, many other places. How many of you are interested in Formula One racing? Cars? Okay, let's cut back to 1900s. You're given a car, let's say. So I want suggestions now. How would you improve the speed of the car such that you won the race? Any suggestions? Any one suggestion? How would you improve the speed of the car? Any suggestion from you? Any person from mechanical engineering, or how would you increase the speed of the car? Search for a better fuel. Quick, anyone? Any other ideas? Sorry? Okay, improve the roads. Good.
Tires.
Tires, that's a good one. What else? Sorry? Improve the quality of the engine. Okay. So, this is very wrong of you. He is saying, make better brakes. Any of you agree with him? Any of you agree with him? You do. Sir, you got me. The reality is, one of the ways of making your car go faster is to have great brakes. Do you know how much the brake pads in a Maruti 800 cost to replace? About 6,000 rupees. In a Mercedes-Benz car, do you know how much it costs to replace? About 80,000 rupees to replace those. In a Porsche, how much does it cost to replace? 8 lakh rupees. Those are liquid cooled brakes. But the Porsche can go at 350 miles an hour. So what we are talking here, ladies and gentlemen, is that despite having all the speed, all the resources that we may like to have, that we may want to have, we must have the one major resource of brakes. And that brake is not simply just do it, that brake is why do it. If you got this why correctly, this why is in the center of your brain. If I may give you many statistics, I'll give you many formula, I'll give you many projections, but sometimes we say, it just doesn't feel right. This is the limbic part of the brain, which doesn't have any language to it. It doesn't have a code to it. It just feels and wills. It can have determination, it can have discrimination. And that's the part of the brain that all of us need to tap. That's the reason I'm to discuss with you and have a chat with you, that let's ask why do it. If we get the why do it right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see all of you at the top sometime. And if we don't get the why do it right, we will have 100 idiots telling each other, all is well, all is well. Thank you very much for your attention. I would love to have questions, but time is not on our side. Just before I end the talk, I'd like to express my gratitude to the management of IIT for allowing such a function to take place, especially the people who are here, sitting here, they have facilitated. And I'm very impressed with this Dhruva business. I'm seriously impressed. It should be going around all across India, and IIT could be the flag bearer and the driver of this Dhruva stuff. And I would also like to thank Gokul and many of his other team members who have taken very good care through yesterday and today. Thank you very much, and thank you for being a lovely audience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ujjwal, for such a wonderful speech and concluding talk. So, I am very sure that all the participants are just waiting to know the results. Should I release? Yes. All right.
Good evening to you all. We had a very lovely speech by Mr. Ujjwal. Why is better than whatever you do, you should ask why. Not just do it. Why do it? Okay. Where is the thing which one should carry back home? Oh, I got a great pleasure in announcing the result. First prize, this prize, right? First prize goes to Mr. Bhargav. Prize number.
Gentleman, hidden in this simple letter is 5,000 rupees also.
Second one prize is Swati. 2,000 rupees. Third prize, Mr. Praveen. Mr. Praveen. Is it? The team for the motion is placed first and the team against the motion placed second. I request all the team members for the motion to please come forward. And team against the motion.
Please come. They are thinking of what to give. So Professor Srinivasan, he suggested we should give such a gift so that they remember the program. Yes, like Dhruva. So we are going to give these beautiful T-shirts to professors. So for you as college. Small token of gratitude. Actually, Mr. Ujjwal Jaju is a very busy person in his business, trading, etc. But he has taken out his very, very valuable time and coming all the way from Bombay to Chennai. So it is, of course, we can't repay. It's a small token of gratitude from side of Dhruva, Reflections Dhruva, IIT Madras. So please hand it over to him. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in this wonderful event. So, I hope all of you have got Dhruva membership brochures. If you want to be part of Dhruva, outside we have membership stall. You can go and please fill membership forms. There's going to be a beautiful show here, musical concert in Indian Raga. Meanwhile, you can just go out and fresh yourself up and again come back the same. So we'll start by 6:10. Please do come back by 6:10. In the beginning, we are going to speak about the Yes Patron, who has helped us making this event possible for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll start off with the program. Thank you very much.